Chosen one. What you are about to hear is not intended for everyone. This is not a casual message, nor is it one meant to inspire fleeting comfort. Rather, it is a direct, urgent spiritual notice, precise in its timing and profound in its implications. If these words have reached you, it is not by accident or digital coincidence. According to the message, this is a divine appointment, a signal that a profound shift is underway in your life. This shift is not theoretical. It is happening now. You are not preparing to enter it. You are already within it. The foundation of this moment is built not on external validation, but on an internal legacy, on quiet endurance, private faith, and unseen obedience. The message conveyed is that your spiritual journey, though personal and often invisible to others, has activated something monumental. A chain reaction has begun, one that has been set in motion by your steadfastness and resilience. This period, according to the message, is not simply a season of blessing, but a period of spiritual eruption. It is marked by the release of what has been held back and the arrival of what has long been delayed. The transformation underway is significant and cannot accommodate old thinking or outdated emotional frameworks. The moment demands internal alignment to match external elevation. This transition represents more than material change. It is a spiritual inflection point. You are being called to move from longing to living, from waiting to receiving. The message is clear. The time is no longer distant, it is now. Many have experienced seasons of isolation, confusion, and emotional silence. You may have asked difficult questions in solitude, questioning your worth or whether your prayers were ever acknowledged. Yet, it is now asserted that those silent tears were not overlooked. Every instance of silent endurance, of trusting when there was no evidence to trust, has accumulated spiritual weight. And now, that weight is triggering release. The phrase "you're done waiting" is not used lightly. It represents a divine declaration. But with this spiritual release comes responsibility. Alignment is a key theme. The implication is that you must prepare mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to match the magnitude of the change. Outdated habits and perspectives must be relinquished. This moment is about stepping into the identity that has been shaped through adversity, not dragging along the residues of survival mode. This moment is also marked by specific reference points. Certain dates, July 6th, July 9th, and July 10th, are not arbitrary. They are presented as divine appointments, calendar marks not made by human hands but highlighted in the spiritual realm. They represent intersections between divine timing and earthly experience. On July 6th, the message indicates a shift in financial reality, not merely an improvement in economic conditions, but a redefinition of financial identity. It speaks of the end of cycles of survival, of constant trade-offs, of chronic lack, of instability. This change is attributed not to chance or sudden luck, but to the record of your consistency. You gave when you had little. You supported when you were weary. The principle emphasized here is not transactional but foundational generosity. In hardship is said to yield divine overflow. Importantly, the financial restoration mentioned is framed not just in economic terms, but in emotional and psychological terms. Freedom from fear, from the burden of debt, from patterns of scarcity. You are encouraged to envision yourself beyond old limitations, beyond the metrics of past bank statements, and into a state of provision aligned with purpose. Moving forward to July 9th, the focus shifts to internal clarity. Here, the issue is not external provision, but spiritual vision. Many have cried out for purpose, for clarity, for answers that make sense of life's deeper questions. The message asserts that this clarity is arriving, not in abstract form, but as a personal awakening. The metaphor used is that of spiritual sight being restored, not physically, but intuitively. You may begin to see with renewed purpose, Hear with spiritual understanding and act with deep conviction. According to this message, the inner turbulence, uncertainty, spiritual fatigue, emotional fog is being lifted. But this awakening is not just for personal growth. It is meant to be activated in others through you. In that sense, your breakthrough is not private, it is communal. By becoming awakened, you become a signal for others who are still searching. You are not only receiving transformation, you are being assigned as a catalyst for it in others. July 10th brings attention to your external environment. On this day, the message points toward a spiritual cleansing of your surroundings, relationships, spaces, and influences. The change may not be visibly dramatic, but it will be energetically undeniable. People, places, and behaviors that once seemed appropriate may begin to feel out of sync. This is not interpreted as rejection, but as redirection. You are not being abandoned. You are being positioned. As your internal identity shifts, your environment must shift to reflect it. The message encourages trust in this process. As people or circumstances exit your life, it is framed not as a loss, but as spiritual pruning. This creates space for what is destined to arrive. In other words, God is making room, not just for blessings, but for alignment. Peace is no longer conceptual. It is becoming experiential, beginning with your physical and relational space. All three of these dates, July 6th, 9th, and 10th, are linked not by coincidence, but by spiritual progression. They represent different layers of transformation: financial, internal, and environmental, all unfolding within the same window of time. According to the narrative, these events are not happening around you, but because of you. Your spiritual obedience has accumulated force, and that force is now shaping reality. One of the core messages is that delay is not the same as denial. You may have experienced periods where nothing seemed to move, when doors stayed shut and prayers went unanswered. But the assertion here is that these were not failures. They were phases of preparation. Each delay had a specific protective or developmental function. Whether shielding you from harmful relationships, wrong timing, or incomplete opportunities, the delays were part of a broader strategy. Now, the divine timing has arrived. The declaration is that even delay has an expiration date, and yours has been reached. The idea is not simply about finally receiving something, but about the justice of spiritual balance. You are not receiving favor by accident, but favor by evidence. Your track record in the unseen spiritual space is said to have reached a threshold, and the response is recompense. Recompense, as emphasized here, goes beyond a single answered prayer. It is defined as payback, as divine compensation for all. That was lost time, trust, resources, relationships, emotional security. What was taken unjustly is not just being returned, but doubled. It is a spiritual correction of past imbalance, issued not by earthly systems, but by a divine court. This theme of compensation also connects with the idea of identity realignment. Throughout the years, confusion may have been a companion. You may have questioned your worth, doubted your path, or wondered if you missed a window of opportunity. But according to this message, such confusion is reaching its end. The clarity coming is not general advice. It is described as blueprint-level insight. Strategic ideas, specific confirmations, and purposeful directions are on the horizon. The significance of this cannot be overstated. Clarity is presented not just as understanding, but as empowerment. You will no longer operate in a state of doubt. Instead, you will move with assurance, not just in your spiritual calling, but in practical areas: career, relationships, financial decisions, and even daily habits. This clarity will remove the need for striving. Instead of trying to force outcomes, you will recognize alignment when it appears. And this moment of clarity is tied to a shift from silent suffering to visible support. You've been carrying emotional, spiritual, and psychological burdens quietly. The message affirms that your strength was not unnoticed, even when you received no applause or external affirmation. God, it is said, has not only seen but documented every act of quiet faith. And now, the burdens you once carried are transforming into results. No longer will you only carry responsibilities, you will begin to carry outcomes. As this part concludes, the message returns to a consistent theme: faith. Not performative faith or convenient belief, but persistent trust shown in dark, uncertain times. That faith, demonstrated without reward or audience, has activated this entire sequence. The message attributes the spiritual shift underway not to trends, algorithms, or personality, but to your unwavering belief. You were the one who said yes in the silence. You were the one who obeyed without certainty. You carried faith not as a slogan, but as a lived reality. And it is this very consistency that, according to the message, has compelled divine movement. The outcome is not hypothetical. It is active. And now, everything is beginning to change, not because you chased the outcome, but because you chose obedience. As we continue this critical message, it is essential to reinforce the foundational theme. Transformation is no longer conceptual, it is occurring in real time. Chosen one, this is not a message of future possibility. It is a confirmation of present activation. The indicators of this change may be subtle at first, but they are strategic and intentional. What once seemed distant is now within reach, not through striving, but through sustained spiritual positioning. You are moving from a season of spiritual labor into one of spiritual leverage. Where you once toiled for confirmation, now you will operate from conviction. The heavy emotional burdens of being misunderstood, of being delayed, of being under-recognized are now being replaced with the lightness of divine flow. This is not merely about relief. It is about realignment. This realignment is reflected across three dimensions: the internal, the interpersonal, and the external. Let us now examine each of these dimensions with clarity and purpose. First, the internal dimension. According to the message, your spiritual framework is being recalibrated. In the previous phase, your identity was shaped by survival. You did what was necessary to endure, to remain faithful, and to hold on to your core beliefs. That survival phase produced grit, endurance, and deep internal fortitude. However, that season has passed. Continuing to operate from survival mode will conflict with the rhythm of what is now unfolding. The call now is not to survive, but to stabilize. To internalize peace, not just pursue it. To operate from overflow, not depletion. This means developing a new structure for your spiritual and emotional routines. No longer is it sufficient to run on reactive energy. Spiritual maintenance must now become spiritual mastery. That includes time for intentional rest, periods of uninterrupted reflection, and consistent spiritual input that supports growth. In this new space, silence becomes a tool of clarity, not absence. Solitude becomes a strategy, not isolation. Stillness becomes a position of strength, not inaction. As you upgrade your internal patterns, you are making room for new instructions, new revelations, and new outcomes. Second is the interpersonal dimension. This is often the most misunderstood aspect of spiritual transformation. When your identity shifts, your relationships must also come under review, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. According to the message, there are people in your life who were assigned to a former version of you. They were connected to the you that tolerated dysfunction, negotiated peace, and compromised conviction. As that version fades, so must their access. This does not imply judgment or bitterness. It simply means that your environment must support your evolution. In this season, you will begin to notice energetic misalignments, relationships that drain instead of replenish, conversations that distract instead of clarify, and invitations that resist your new rhythm. The solution is not confrontation. It is clarity. You are not being asked to correct others. You are being asked to redirect yourself. By choosing higher alignment, you naturally allow what no longer belongs to fall away. This is a divine filtration process. It may appear as loss, but it is protection. You are not being pulled away from people. You are being preserved for purpose. The third and final dimension is external. The message is clear. Where you are matters. Not just spiritually, but physically, geographically, and environmentally. There's a strong emphasis on location, not simply as a place of residence, but as a source of spiritual influence. Environments carry energy, and just as some spaces promote clarity, others cultivate confusion. Part of your spiritual upgrade includes the possibility of relocation, whether in mindset, community, or geography. This external shift also includes what you consume, your media, your routines, your surroundings. Every part of your daily life must now serve the alignment you are walking in. The smallest details, what you watch, who you follow, how you start your mornings, will either reinforce or erode your spiritual clarity. You are being called to create an atmosphere that reflects where you are going, not where you've been. That includes your space, your words, and your habits. The external must now match the internal truth you have fought to establish. One of the most direct parts of the message is the idea of sudden confirmation. For years, many chosen individuals have operated on unseen faith, trusting in a calling that few understood and fewer supported. But the spiritual message now declares, the time of invisibility is ending. Confirmation will not just come in words. It will come in the form of opportunities, unexpected provision, unusual favor, and visible alignment. People who once overlooked your potential will begin to inquire about your clarity. Doors that once rejected you will begin to open. Systems that once resisted you will begin to recognize your role. This is not about validation. It is about recognition. Heaven is confirming what you've always known in secret, and the world is beginning to reflect that internal truth. However, with confirmation comes the need for stewardship. You are not being elevated to coast. You are being elevated to carry. The message reinforces that this next level is not about status. It is about spiritual infrastructure. You must now walk with order, intention, and boundaries. You are not being blessed randomly. You are being entrusted. Spiritual authority requires a level of maturity that can only be forged in the unseen spaces of obedience. That is why the preparation process has felt so intense, because the next level carries real weight. You will be entrusted with insights that others ignore. You will be entrusted with decisions that impact more than just your life. You will be entrusted with peace in chaotic environments. This authority cannot be used for control or manipulation. It must be paired with accountability. The message is clear. Power without purity is corruption. You are not being raised to dominate, you are being raised to stabilize. And with this authority, you must regularly return to your foundation. Daily reflection, weekly recalibration, and seasonal reassessment are now necessary spiritual disciplines. Without them, influence can become distraction. Another key theme in the message is that divine timing is not predictable, but it is precise. You cannot rush what is sacred, and you cannot delay what is appointed. Many chosen ones have tried to orchestrate outcomes, overthink processes, or manipulate timelines. But the message is clear. Divine timing can only be honored, never controlled. This means releasing the need for premature answers. It means letting go of emotional urgency. It means learning to walk in peace while outcomes are still unfolding. You will not miss what is yours, but you can delay your readiness to receive it. That is why the call is to deepen your alignment, not increase your activity. The promise still stands, but your position determines your access. Lastly, the message transitions to legacy. Your life is no longer just about breakthrough. It is about blueprint. Others will watch how you navigate this season not to admire you, but to learn what obedience looks like in practice. Your story is becoming structure. Your journey is becoming curriculum. And your transformation is becoming a signal. You are not the end product. You are the first line of instruction for a generation that is searching for answers. This means that your consistency matters. Your integrity matters. Your humility matters. Your boundaries matter. What you do next will shape more than your future will impact the spiritual ecosystems connected to your obedience. As we close this message, the directive is firm. Walk forward. Not in haste, but in certainty. The season you are entering does not require more belief. It requires more alignment. You have believed long enough. Now, you must build. You have waited long enough. Now, you must walk. You have asked long enough. Now, you must act. The message was not delivered to entertain. It was sent to equip. You are not just a recipient of this moment. You are a response to it. Your life is the answer to someone else's question. Your alignment is the rescue for someone else's confusion. Your stability is the foundation for someone else's healing. Chosen one, it's no longer about if, it's about now. And now is already unfolding. You are not late. You are not unqualified. You are not forgotten. You are ready. Now walk as if you know it. Chosen one, you've reached the final segment of this spiritual message. This moment is not the end of a video, it is the threshold of accountability. You have heard what was necessary. You have received what was timely. And now, the only question that remains is, what will you do with it? This message has not been entertainment, opinion, or speculation. It was designed as instruction. And spiritual instruction always demands a human response. Without response, even the clearest vision fades. Without action, even the greatest calling stays dormant. What lies ahead for you is not mystery, it is strategy. And in this final portion, we'll outline what clarity looks like in practice, how to move forward, what to prioritize, and why. Everything is already aligned for your next steps. Throughout this script, you've heard a recurring theme, alignment. But alignment is not vague. It manifests in three clear dimensions: mental clarity, spiritual certainty, and physical preparedness. Mental clarity. Your thoughts must be clear enough to allow new instructions. This requires an intentional break from repetitive loops of anxiety, distraction, and doubt. Begin journaling with precision. Write down your recurring thoughts, your internal tensions, and your quiet intuitions. What patterns repeat? What ideas resurface without prompting? Mental clarity is not about overthinking, it's about observing your inner voice and aligning it with truth. Spiritual certainty. Certainty is not about knowing all outcomes. It is about being anchored regardless of them. To strengthen spiritual certainty, recommit to silence. Whether 5 minutes or 50, time in silence is time in calibration. Let your spirit, not your emotions, do the hearing. Certainty builds. Slowly, but with consistency, it becomes immovable. Physical preparedness. The body cannot be ignored in the process of spiritual transition. You must steward your energy, routines, and health. Eat with awareness. Rest without guilt. Structure your time around your highest priorities. Transformation cannot flow through a system that is physically disordered. If even one of these areas, mental, spiritual, physical, is neglected, your alignment weakens. That's why now is not the time for chaos, delay, or compromise. It's time for discipline, reflection, and consistency. You have endured in silence. that endurance was not in vain. But now endurance alone will not carry you. It must evolve into execution, deliberate, focused, and measured execution. Here's what that might look like. Turning your insights into action plans, structuring your days to protect your clarity, speaking less, listening more, saying no to distraction without apology, choosing progress over perfection. This is not hustle culture. This is spiritual alignment expressed practically. Execution is the evidence that you believe what was spoken. And in this era, belief without movement is no longer sufficient. Do not expect the assignment to arrive with fanfare. In most cases, it will come quietly. It may appear as a nudge, a restlessness, a conversation, or a sudden urge to change something in your routine. It may not even feel spiritual at first, but you will know. You will recognize it not because it's loud, but because it's consistent. The assignments in this next chapter will feel familiar and foreign at the same time. They will stretch your capacity, but confirm your calling. They may require small beginnings, but they will hold large purpose. Treat everything in this season with care. The small decision to restructure your finances could unlock a future opportunity. The discipline to limit your input could protect you from confusion. Every small choice counts now. You are being tested not just on faith, but on follow-through. Delayed obedience is disobedience in slow motion. What you know you must do, do it now. What you know you must say it with truth. What you know you must end it with integrity. Do not allow fear, nostalgia, or external opinion to override your inner knowing. If the message is confirmed your need to pivot, to exit, to pursue, or to recommit, honor that knowing. There will not be another message with more clarity than this one. You do not need more confirmation. You need commitment. For years, you carried faith in the unseen. You prayed without evidence, obeyed without reward, and waited without applause. That season of faith has become a foundation. Now, on top of that foundation, you are being called to build. Build routines. Build focus. Build healing. Build influence. Build legacy. Your faith was not weak. It was preparing you to hold what's next. And now, the next season has been activated not because you forced it, but because you stood still in the storm and refused to waver. There is a moment, often subtle, when the shift begins working for you instead of happening to you. That moment is when your actions align fully with the frequency of your calling. You stop over-explaining your decisions. You stop comparing your pace with others. You stop apologizing for your clarity. You start moving without hesitation. You start resting without guilt. You start speaking only when necessary. At that point, you are not trying to force transformation. You are simply becoming the type of person who can carry it. That shift is happening now. And once it begins, it will not stop unless you pull yourself out of it. Do not withdraw. Do not regress. Do not self-sabotage. You've come too far to restart another cycle. As the alignment settles, people around you may begin to ask different questions. You seem more focused. What changed? You're not as reactive. Why? There's something different about you. I can't explain it. This is not coincidence. This is the evidence of alignment. And when it begins to show outwardly, know that it is not your role to explain everything. You are not called to justify your shift. You are called to embody it. Let your life speak louder than your language. Let your clarity be your explanation. Let your transformation be your testimony. The message you received was not just a reminder of what you already knew. It was an activation, a call to recalibrate your thinking, your priorities, and your preparation. And because it has been delivered, you are now in a new category of responsibility. What happens next is determined by what you do today, not tomorrow, not next week. But right now, you do not need to do everything at once. But you must do something immediately. that aligns with the shift already underway. That action, however small, becomes your declaration of readiness. As you walk forward, carry these final truths. Your silence was not a setback. It was a strategy. Your isolation was not punishment. It was preservation. Your delays were not rejection. They were refinement. Your current clarity is not random. It is your release. Your response now is not optional. It is essential. You were not called to observe. You were called to transform. You were not chosen to remain hidden. You were chosen to reveal the path by walking it first. The shift is not hypothetical. The time is not flexible. The moment is not casual. It is now. This is the final notice for those who have been asking for direction. No more delays. No more excuses. No more questioning. You are aligned. You are equipped. You are appointed. The shift is happening with or without your participation. But you were never designed to watch from the sidelines. You were born for this. You are ready for this. Now walk accordingly. If this message resonated with you, it's not by chance. It's because you were meant to receive it at this exact moment. The shift you're experiencing isn't a passing thought. It's a call to step forward with intention, clarity, and discipline. You've been equipped with spiritual insight, and now it's time to walk in alignment with what you've heard. Take this opportunity to reflect, reassess, and act. Revisit your environment. Review your habits. Reconnect with your purpose. This is not just about listening. It's about transformation through application. If you found value in this message and believe others may need this clarity as well, we encourage you to like this video, share it with someone who's navigating their own shift, and subscribe for future content that supports your ongoing alignment and growth. Your journey doesn't end here. It evolves from this point forward. Stay grounded, stay focused, and most importantly, stay obedient to what you know is right for your path. This is your moment. Don't just witness the shift, walk in it.